Okay. Did anybody have any other questions about MindTap or Chapter 1? Anything that you went over? Because I know most of you hadn't done the Unit 1 test on Monday, so that should. And I did give you till next Monday. I remember. Now that's what I thought of. But today what we're going to do is go ahead, because this is the assignment, the Unit 1 Programming Exercise 1 that I told you we would look at today. But this assignment is what is due next Monday. So we're going to go over some of the other exercises at the end of the chapter that are similar to this one, so that you'll know what you're supposed to do in this one. But I want to see how many are able to do this one. You already have it done, right, Chase? Yeah. Well, I mean, this one from last time, if you saved it. Oh, okay. Okay. So the first thing we want to do, and everybody should be logged in, is I want to make sure everybody knows how to set up their Lucidchart account. So we're going to do that together first. And so if you can either get to it outside of this exercise, there should be a link to it, but oops. So let me log into here. And I believe in this, maybe it's in the prepare for class. Maybe I didn't put it in here. I thought I did. Yeah, right here in the prepare for class, it says set up a free account at Lucidchart. And I did have I think it was an online student though, that wasn't sure when they tried to install Python what the difference was. That you still have to also install PyCharm, but I'm going to show you that video, that guy that tells you how to do that. So today we're going to go to Lucidchart, so you can go to the link this way, or you can simply type in lucidchart.com, and you would use your student email address. And this is a free account, won't cost you anything. It's open source, and it's used in industry for other things other than just flowchart for programming. So there you would log in and click next. It should give you the chance to set up a new one. I already have one. Did it say create an account? Oh, right up here, right down here. Set up free account. See down at the bottom? Did everybody find that? Oh, it didn't do that. Hey, you guys thank you for telling me, Alan, right? You're looking at me like I'm stupid. You gotta tell me when I forget to do that. Okay, so if you go to lucidchart.com, you either could go inside Canvas here and find the link lucidchart.com, or you can just go up here in your browser window and type in lucidchart.com. Either way, this is how you spell it, Lucid chart. When you get to the login screen, you should see a button down here at the bottom that says set up free account. I already have one, so I don't want to do that again. So we'll be using this both in class, and then once you set up your free account, you can do it on your home computer too. Now, when you set up your free account, you won't have all this stuff that I do, because I've been using it for several years. And I just haven't erased those. So tell me if you have trouble doing that. Because we're going to look at the exercises in MindTap and go from there. So while you're getting that set up, I'm going to go ahead and log into my MindTap so that I can look at the exercises in the book. I should have brought my paper book up, but I printed book, but I did not. So we'll do it this way. So when I go Now remember, you need to have read this whole chapter too, even though I covered most of it in class, and I didn't go over any of these review questions. So if you try to do that over the weekend and you have some questions about why certain test questions answered the way they did or anything like that, feel free to send me an email, or Monday you can ask questions also. So I'm going to go back here to the table of contents. You don't have to do this part if you've got Lucidchart open, because I'm going to pull the problems up right here. So I'm going to go to exercises, and it was in exercises. I just went down at the bottom. Programming exercises. Okay, just to see how much we understand here, if you were going to match the definitions to the appropriate term, normally these type of questions are in the review exercises in the rest of the units, but in Unit 1, because it had a lot of terminology, this is one of the first programming exercise questions. So here, if you were matching these definitions, which one of these would go with computer system devices? Is it compiler, syntax, logic, hardware, software? What did we talk about that was the actual devices are called what? It's actually hardware is what you hold on to. Software are the instructions or the programs. So the first one should be hardware. Second one, another word for a program is actually going to be software. Language rules, syntax, very good. Order of instructions has to be logic, right? And so the language translator only leaves us one, compiler. And we won't be using a compiler this semester, but if you take Java or C++ or C#, any of those languages, they use a compiler. We use an interpreter for Python. In your own words, describe the steps to writing a computer program. That's one in your assignment. This is the first one that I assign you as number 2, and then number 6. So we're going to go to number 3 and do it together in class. So you're to, and this is what you will do for problem number 6. So you probably want to go through it with me. So we're going to say draw a flowchart or pseudocode. And what I always require this first part of before all up until we take test 1 is, instead of the or, I want you to do both so that you become familiar with both, and then you can decide which you prefer after we get through the first test, okay? So it says draw a flowchart, or we're going to change that to and, so we're going to do both, a flowchart and pseudocode to represent the logic of a program that allows the user to enter a value. The program then multiplies the value by 10 and outputs the result. Okay, so remember I told you there's 3 parts in every program, and there's input, and there's processing, and there's output, right? So in this particular problem, if I was going to solve this problem, I want to first of all pick out what those parts are. So in this problem, what is my input in that problem? What's it asking for? That's the input. What part of this problem? This is a word problem, okay? So if I say draw a flowchart or pseudocode to represent the logic of a program, that's your first instructions. But then the actual problem starts here. It allows the user to enter a value. So is that going to be my input? When the user, it's asking the user to enter a value. So that value is going to be my first variable name. So I'm going to say my input is, I'm going to have one input, right? And let's just call it, we can call it any name that we want to. We'll just call it num1, okay? So that's going to be my variable input. Then and this is not pseudocode or flowchart. I'm just kind of writing these notes in my head so I can show you how to solve a problem the easiest way. Then I have a process step. So what does my process say? What am I going to do here to this number that's entered? Multiply it by 10, right? So that means I'm going to have another variable name that is going to store the answer, right? So I'm going to say answer. I'm just going to instead say my answer like they did. Oops, I got to spell it right though. Answer equals num1 times 10. Is that my process step? Does that look right? Will that work? Now, why did I have to use num1 and couldn't just put any variable name I wanted there? Because I said, this is what I'm going to use for my variable name. And remember, in programming logic, your answer is always on the left side of the equal sign. Your evaluation is always on the right side. So that's different than it was in mathematics, right? You always put the answer over on the right. Like when you do algebra or even a simple addition problem, you would say 4 plus 5 equals 9, right? So it's opposite to what you did in mathematics. The programming logic is always your processing is on the right, and whatever answer you get is dumped into the left side of the equal sign. So now what's the last step that I need to do? I need to print it, right? So I need to say print. What do I want to print? Answer. Or I can just simply in pseudocode, I could just say output answer, right? That print is because of Python. So there are my 3 steps for this particular problem. So now I'm going to go over to Lucidchart. Hopefully you all have your Lucidchart open. You've all got it established. Did anybody have trouble getting their account? Okay, Alan, what happened on yours? No, you have to create it right here where it says set up free account. Oh, I thought you said there was already. Oh, there was for me. I was saying I already have a free account, so I'm not going to set up one. Okay. So once you get that set up, then I can actually in Lucidchart I can do pseudocode and flowchart because it lets me do text boxes just as if I was in a word processor or something. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a blank document. So I click here and it looks like a piece of graph paper. You probably can't hardly see my graph is real dim on the screen, but it should open up where it looks like a piece of graph paper. And you should recognize some of these, like in a word processor, right, has some of the same tools up here. The thing that's different is you've got your flowchart symbols here. And that's what we're going to be using, only 3 of them currently. We're going to be using the ellipse for the start and stop. We're going to be using the parallelogram, which is here for input and output. We're going to use the rectangle for a process step. So we only have 3 shapes that we know how to use right now. We remember that it did introduce the diamond shape to you in your book, which is a decision, and we don't actually get to that till I think maybe chapter 2, but I think it's chapter 3. And all these others we don't even need right now at all, and we won't even use them all semester. We'll use this one as the only other one besides the decision box that we'll use this semester. Okay, so we'll need the flow lines, and then this is a text box that you can pull over and you can type your pseudocode in it because it won't let you just start typing in here. You have to have a box to type in, okay? So if we're gonna do pseudocode first for our problem. I'm gonna pull this over. I usually like mine on this side. I'm gonna make it a little bigger. Do we have a Everybody okay? Yeah.
It's just not loading. It's gonna load.
It's not loading? So it. Maybe everybody was hitting it at the same time or something, but they shouldn't. Oh, you're just stopping there again. You already have a blank diagram. Okay, let's see here. Showing all your tools up. You currently. There it is. And there came all your stuff up there. Okay. You got yours?
Got it working.
Okay. You got it. Yeah, you got it. Okay. So you don't want to do it right now? Or you have it up? You have it up. Okay. Oh, you got your book up too. All right. So the one thing that I always do, which you don't have to do this because you're not on a presentation screen, but you'll notice that the text always starts out in the center. Well, we don't really want it in the center. Well, here's the little icon for alignment. And so you can go down there and make it start up in the top left-hand corner that way. And then the other thing I'm going to do is make my text a lot larger so you can see it from the back of the room, hopefully. So I put it, oh, sometimes it does, it goes back to that. Let me. So you change your font points here, and then you can also change the style of font right here, whichever is more readable to you. I usually use Verdana, but it's not on there, so I'll just use this one. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and with every pseudocode, I always want to have a start and a stop. So I usually go right here and click start, and then I go right on my next line and click stop. And then I'm going to put lines in between it, however many I need. Now, that's the start and the stop, which are always as far left as you can go. And then we actually indent our code. And you don't want to use a, oops, what did I do there? Got mine down. Okay, so you usually, the tab doesn't work inside the box. I think it's the tab. No, it did. It worked. So you tab over one, and then we said input, and we called our variable name what? You can call it whatever you want, just so you call it the same thing each time when you do the processing step. So we put input num1, tab over again, and now we put, we called it answer equals num1, and I'm probably gonna have to make my box bigger because my text is so big. Num1 times 10. Now you don't have to put spaces in there. It's totally up to you. Even in Python, it doesn't care about the spaces. It's just whatever's more readable for you. And then I tab over one more time and do, I can either say print or I can just say output answer. And that's the pseudocode to solve that problem. That's all there is to it. Now, to do the flow chart, we are going to take these same things, but we're going to put them in the correct shapes. Okay, so which one of these shapes do I use for the start and the stop? Ellipse. So I'm going to pull it over, and you'll notice it kept my text that large, so I'm going to make my ellipse a little bigger, but it's actually not going to need that much when I put the word start in there. Okay, then there's a couple ways I can do this. I can drag a shape over, or where I want it connected, I can actually just come here and, oops, in the red dot, and if I start dragging a line, it'll pop up with the shapes. But I have to go from the red dot. And so the next shape I need is for input. So which one of the shapes is that? Parallelogram, right? Okay, so I click on that, and I want to say input num1 inside there. So I can go ahead and type it and then stretch my shape out if I want, num1, and then I can make it all the same size if I want to. Sometimes it gives me a hassle with my line being crooked, so if that's, I don't care about that, but some people, wait, let's see. How did I get this shape? The line to go down? Okay, you have to click on the red dot. See, if you, like what I just did, I created another one that I didn't want, so I'll have to select it and delete it. And mine is kind of crooked because I made that shape. I did that shape different. If I want to change it, if I want to make it straighter, I can also go like this and drag, oops, no, like this and drag it straight down.
So how do you delete it?
How do you delete? Okay, when you delete something, you've got to make sure and select it, click on it, and it selects it where there's like this, like now I can delete it. And then if I want to draw my line down, oops, it's going to think I want another one, so I have to go all the way. Then you have to drag it down. Sometimes you have to play around with it a little bit to get it exactly like you want. That's why some people go with the pseudocode after this, but the pictures makes more sense, and you can follow the flow better by looking at the diagram. Okay, so the next one that I need is I'm going to pull it down, a process step. So I'm going to use a rectangle. So in the process step, I say answer equals num1 times 10. And see, to some people, when we get to harder problems, it's easier to see with the diagram, and so they'll do the flow chart first and then not do pseudocode. Some students prefer the pseudocode. It's whatever method works best for you, but right now we're going to do them both. So next I need another parallelogram for my output, right? So I would say output or print answer. Now sometimes it may tell you to print both the input variable and the output, but in this case the problem didn't ask for that. So what you're going to find out that's important is that you read the problem and do it just do exactly what it asks. Sometimes my line's better afterwards, so I go down after to make it straighter. Okay, so now all I need is my stop. So I'll go here, pull it down, and get my ellipse and put stop. And there is my pseudocode and flowchart for that very first problem. Anybody need help? Everybody okay? Now, when I ask you to do this for a problem, you have to submit this sheet Well, the way you do that is you go right here to File, and you need to first you need to save it with a name. So see, mine says blank diagram. We'll call this Chapter 1 dash exercise 3, I think it was, right? So then we'll click OK, and now it should have changed the name up here where it said blank diagram.
What do you put for the last?
Oh, what I put what?
For the last one?
On the shape?
Yeah.
Oh, it's stopped. So you want to be sure that you put each one of these in a shape. So here, I'll scroll it down a little bit. It's the ellipse. Same, it'll be the same as the start. I just stretched this one out. This one I left small. So now, once you get it all fixed and you're ready, after you save it with a name up here, then what you do is you go to File and you say, I think y'all says download as, and mine says export. Does yours say export on Windows? I can't remember. I think it's a little different. Publish. No, export's there. Okay, do export. So just like I did, you see the file menu and then go down where it says export and click PDF. You should all be familiar with that type of document. So then when I say export as a PDF, over here, it's gonna say download. And so I'm gonna click download. And if I haven't named it, it'll call it blank diagram, right? So be sure you named it. So right here, I'm gonna go over to where my folder is for this class. Oh, it's right here. Fundamentals, and this is my 9:30 class. So this is the name of the exercise, the PDF. So I save it. And so now if you had just done the exercise, I'm going to show you in Canvas. If you had just done the exercise for this assignment, and this is the assignment, it would have, oops, let me go to student mode so it'll look like what yours does. Student view. Okay, so if you've gone to here and you've clicked on your assignment, so slow, there we go. You'll see it says submit assignment right here in Canvas. So now you don't want to submit the one that we just did, but when you do that homework one, the number 2 and number 6, you can do those both on Lucidchart in 2 separate text boxes if you want, or if that's confusing, you can do it on 2. But like problem number 2, you're just going to type out the answer, so you can type it out in the text box on the PDF. This is for me to see how if you understand this. So then you'll click on submit assignment and it'll give you an option here soon. Where it is, there it is. And it'll say choose file. So then you'll go over to wherever you saved your PDF. In this case, mine is right here in fundamentals, and it's in this folder, and it was called chapter 1, like that, and it's open. So there's that, and submit assignment. If you've used Canvas before, then you've done this. If you've not ever used Canvas, then this is new to you. So any questions? How to submit? How to do it? Okay, so I'm going to leave student view because I don't want to submit anything. So now I have used Lucidchart to do the first problem. Now, if I go back over, I'm going to go over here to, now, if we want to do that in PyCharm, which in this assignment, you're not required to do Python yet, okay? So if you want to, just because it makes it a little bit more fun, you can open up your PyCharm. Let's see if I have it. Where is, there's the ones that I've already done in PyCharm. Let me go to where I thought I kept it down here. I guess I did not. I will make sure it gets down there now. MNO PyCharm. Okay, here's my PyCharm. Oh, that's because I did it on Windows the other time. Okay, so you remember how to get to PyCharm on your Windows computer. You go over to the Windows, and it should be on the desktop, PyCharm. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call it class exercises. Oops, I don't want any space in there though. So there's my PyCharm. I can right click on it and say new Python file. And this is chapter 1, exercise 3, right? Click. It's going to create my Python file. Does anybody want to do this? That know how to get to it? I can stop and help you if you want to try it. This is going to be the simplest one. So we're going to look, the purpose of creating your pseudocode and flowchart is that you're going to use that in order to write the Python program. So when I go over here, I'll use my flowchart or whatever. Do I have to have a start in a Python program? That's one thing I don't need for Python. So even though my flowchart starts with a start, in Python, I can put a comment there. That's what Joseph was talking about, right? You put comments. Okay, in Python, do you remember, Chase, what we do a comment line with? Well, comment is something that the Python is not going to execute. Yeah, and I think we started off with 2 slashes, right? So slashes are underneath the question mark, and we can say here, this is chapter 1. You can write anything in there that's English language. Oh, it's not taking. Yeah, I didn't do that right. You are correct. I'm thinking of Java. Okay. Hashtag now, it should let me type anything I want in there because the interpreter is going to ignore it. Chapter 1, exercise 3 is what this is. Okay, and then I can put I can put as many lines of comment as I want. So I can say multiplying a number by 10. That's what this problem is going to do, right? This program or script. So now my input, I've got to know how to do input in where it'll ask for input in Python. So the way I do that is I put the name of my variable that I want it to dump it in. Num1 is what I called it, right? Is equal to, and remember, in order to multiply it, I have to make it an integer. So I say int input Oh, I bet I have those backwards too. Let me see if this is right. Input, and I say, please enter a number. then I'm going to have to put another one right out here. Now, what was the oops, I didn't spell please right. I don't like that. Okay, so that's going to ask for my input. Is that saying it's right? I'm not sure if that's saying it's right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll see. It'll come up and tell me if it's not, because that doesn't look right. Let me see if this goes first. I always forget which goes outside and which goes inside. No. Anybody remember what we did the other day? I should have opened the one I did the other day. Input. I don't know. I think it's like that. All right, we'll try this. It'll tell me if it's not right. Okay, the next is my processing step. So I'm going to go answer equals, and this is the easiest part, num1 times 10. And then I want to say print. And I only have to say answer, not in quotes, because that's the name of the variable. But if I wanted to say what it is, I could put in quotes something like this. I could say your answer is, then I'd put a quote and a comma, and it would still put the variable there. Okay, let me see if it's going to run without errors. Let's see. So I'm ready to run it. So I'm going to go up here in my Python, and I can either go up here where it says run and do run, or I can use this little, it's not lit up, so it's not going to let me use it. So I go here, run, and I picked that's what I want to run it. And somewhere it should be asking for, so please enter a number. So I'm going to enter 5 times 10 should be 50, right? Your answer is 50. Who did the Python? Anybody do the Python? No? Nobody? Okay. So that's how you do the Python from this pseudocode and flowchart. So if we were going to do, let's go ahead and do another problem. Okay, I want to see if y'all can do this one on your own, and then I'm going to come around and help you if you need help. So the next exercise in MindTap, oh, did I lose my MindTap? No, there it is. The next one says, draw a flowchart or write pseudocode to represent the logic of a program that allows the user to enter a value for one edge of a cube. The program calculates the surface area of one side of the cube and the surface area of the cube and its volume. The program outputs all the results. So how many processing steps are there here? 3, because it says you're going to calculate the surface area of one side of the cube, the surface area of the cube, and its volume. So that means we're going to need 3 different output variables. How many input variables do we have? 1. Okay, so how many remember their geometry? That's you have to know the formula for those things in order to do that. So pull up another document in Lucidchart. So you want to go over here or right here and say add a blank page again. Pull your text box on or your flowchart, whichever you want to do first. Who knows the formulas for surface area of a cube? Anybody know the formulas? And then you can do your own flowchart if we put the formulas up there. You can Google it. Always Google it, right? So what's the volume of a cube? It shows you is volume equals a to the 3rd power. So there you'll have to do cube times cube times cube, right? So what was the other one? Surface area of a cube. Is that what it asked? I think it did. So area equals 6 times edge. So whatever the edge, so that's what you're entering. The problem is the edge. So you're asking the user for the edge of the cube. So you might want your first variable to be called edge, what they input. Then you're going to calculate, so you're going to have 3 steps that calculate the surface area of one side of the cube, the surface area of the cube, and its volume. Everybody go. Let's see. Let's see what you can do. If you need help, after a few minutes, I just want to see what you can do on your own. Let's see what you're... Okay, anybody get it on their own? Joseph, did you get it? Okay. Okay, ask questions if you don't understand what we're doing. When you look at the problem, what logic is the order of the instructions that you do it to get the right answer. So you have to have things in the right order, because if you're going to use this variable called side area, then you need to be able to calculate it first, because see, it's used here and here. So if we switch the order of these processing steps, we would have a problem with these two because they're using something from the previous step. This one had more to it. Let's go to, because I assigned number 6. So let's look at number 5. So number 5 is to draw a flowchart and pseudocode to represent the logic of a program. So you want to know the order of the program, the logic. We're not worrying about syntax rules right now. We're just trying to solve how you would go about getting the answer. Did you get yours, Alan? Okay. So that allows the user to enter a value for hours worked in a day. Okay, so we're still going to have just one input. How many total hours do you work in a day? The program calculates the hours worked in a 5-day week and the hours worked in a 252-day work year. The program outputs all the results. So how many calculations are in this one? How many processing steps? 2. Very good. You're going to calculate, once the user puts in how many hours they work in a day, then you're going to calculate how many hours that is in a 5-day work week, and then how many hours it is in a 252-day work year. Okay? So that one, the 2 formulas should be pretty easy. So if we go back over here, okay, Tayshan, so start with your text box on your pseudocode. Go back and start a new document. Start a new document, and then we have our start and stop, right? So we have our start and stop. I'm just going to use the one I already have here. So then I have input, but this time, instead of my input being num1, what's a good variable name? What's it asking the user to enter? What is that problem? Number 4 asking, or 5 asking the user to enter. Value for hours. So what would be a good variable name? Maybe just hours, right? That would make more sense than using an A or a B or something like that. So we're going to say input hours. We could even call it hours worked if we wanted, whatever makes more sense. I'm going to tab over again. Okay, so we have 2 processing steps in our problem. Tayshan, what's the first calculation we're doing? What does it say? The program calculates the hours worked in a 5-day week. So what do I need to do first? 5-day work week. So I need a variable name, right, to hold that. So I could call what's a good name for it? 5-day. Okay, let's just say 5-day. Let's just call it that. 5-day equals, and how did I calculate that? How would I find out how many hours are in a 5-day work week? Right, times hours. So our input is hours. Oops, didn't spell it right. Is hours. That's what we called the input times 5. And that's going to give us how many hours are in the 5-day work week. What's the other calculation I have to do? What was the rest of the problem? Right, 252 days. So I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to say whatever I want to call this one. I'll just make this a little different. Hours 252. I maybe shouldn't use numbers. I'll say year hours in a year, okay, is equal to hours times what? 252. So now I have one more step. What's my last step? Output. Very good. So I have to say output, and I can have 2 output statements, or I can say output 5-day, comma, hours, year. That was what I called those 2, and then stop. Then I would change my flowchart over here to match this. So how many rectangles do I need in my flowchart this time? 2, because I have 2 processing steps. So I would have 2 of these instead of just 1. And I could have 2 output parallelograms, or I could just say output and list both variable names in the same one. So problem number 6 is what I want you all to do and see if you understand. So you're going to do the pseudocode and flowchart for problem number 6, and then you're going to type out. So if you were doing it in Lucidchart, I told you to do number 2. So you would come over here, you would create a new document. Let me move this. I can see. Okay, so I want to create file, new document, start with a new one, and I'll click on blank diagram, create a new document. So now I want to do problem number 2, which is not going to take a pseudocode and flowchart. So I'm just going to put a box out here. I'm not going to answer it for you, but here's where you start up in the left. And if you want your text larger, whatever, I want you to put number 2, or actually chapter 1. Chapter 1, and this is problem number 2, or exercise number 2. And then there you would answer it. Just type out the answer, okay? And then when you're ready for problem number 6, drag another text box over here. And this one is chapter 1. Oops, we got to make it better. This is your pseudocode because this is a problem. So you'll say chapter 1, exercise, or you can call it number 6. And then you write your pseudocode in that box. And then you do your flow chart for this one. When you get finished, file, export as PDF, and that's what you'll submit, is that one PDF document. Okay? I want to see how many can get it done by Monday. If you don't, then we'll, you know, if you've tried it, submit something, okay? So I can see where everybody's at and who needs help. All right? Do that and be sure that you've taken unit test 1 in MindTap if you have not yet done that, because it will close Monday night. So do those 2 things. If you have tried it on Monday, then I will help you do it if you don't know how to do it. If you have not submitted anything, I know it's not due till Monday night. So if you have not submitted anything, I need to see what you can do. All right, so be sure and read chapter 1, do numbers 2 and number 6, and then we may do some more of them in class, some more of the exercises, but that's the only one that I'm going to require that you submit because I want to see if you can do this. All right. If you can't, that's okay. This is a beginning class. I just kind of need to know where everybody's at. So do your best to submit something. Any questions? Pseudocode. Actually, number 2 won't have a pseudocode in flowchart. It's just to ask you a question about the, let me go back there and I'll show you. Because it just asks you, in your own words, describe the steps to writing a computer program. And it tells you those steps in unit 1. Alan?
So all we're doing right now is just all in Lucidchart, not in MindTap. We're not doing anything in Python yet.
That's right. You're not required to. If you want to go in and play with those 2 that you just did, like I did, just for fun, with Python, you can do that. You just don't have to submit it. Okay? And in chapter 2, we'll start doing the Python and kind of see how we do, okay? All right, any other questions? Anybody has? Okay, we get out early. Y'all don't very many questions. Okay, I'd want to stop, don't want to give you too much at one time. All right, let me stop my video and then I'll go back there.